I never believed in the supernatural. I'm a data guy, a numbers person. I deal in concrete realities, not whispers of ghosts or the rustling of unseen things. So, when my wife, Sarah, started talking about her friend, I was concerned, but mostly just chalked it up to stress. Sarah and I met in college. She was an art student, bursting with creativity, a chaotic energy that perfectly balanced my own methodical nature. We were a good team, a yin and yang kind of deal. We got married 5 years after graduation, bought a small house in the suburbs, and settled into a comfortable routine. The routine was good, but it wasn't exciting. Sarah started feeling restless. She'd always been a free spirit, and the structured life of mortgage payments and 9-to-5 jobs was suffocating her. She took up painting again, spending hours in her studio, a converted spare bedroom at the back of the house. That's when he appeared. At first, it was just casual mentions. "Oh, Marius thinks I should use a warmer palette for this landscape." Or, "Marius says this canvas needs more texture." I figured Marius was another artist, maybe someone she'd met online. "Who's Marius?" I asked one evening over dinner. Sarah looked up, a faraway expression in her eyes. "He's a friend," she said, her voice hesitant. "An old friend? From college? I don't think I ever heard you mention him." She shrugged. "He wasn't really around a lot." I let it go. I didn't want to pry. If she wanted to tell me, she would. But the Marius mentions became more frequent, more intimate. He wasn't just offering artistic advice anymore. He was commenting on her cooking, her clothes, her general mood. "Marius likes it when you wear your hair down," she'd say, or, "Marius thinks we should try that new Italian place downtown." I started feeling uneasy, jealous, even. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just lonely, and Marius was her way of coping. But the more she talked about him, the more real he seemed. One night, I was working late in my home office. Sarah was in her studio, painting. I heard her talking, her voice low and animated. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like she was having a conversation. "Who are you talking to?" I asked when she came out for a glass of water. She jumped, startled. "Oh, I was just thinking out loud," she stammered. I frowned. "You sounded like you were talking to someone." "No, I wasn't. Really." She avoided my gaze. The next day, I decided to do some digging. I looked through her phone, her email, her social media. Nothing. No mention of Marius anywhere. It was like he didn't exist outside of her conversations. My concern escalated. I started thinking about mental health. Was Sarah okay? Was she hallucinating? I considered suggesting therapy, but I was afraid of how she would react. Then, things took a turn for the bizarre. One afternoon, I came home early from work. I walked into the house, and everything was different. The air felt heavy, charged. There was a strange smell, like incense and something else I couldn't quite place. I found Sarah in the living room, sitting on the floor surrounded by candles. She was wearing a long, flowing dress I'd never seen before, and her hair was braided with flowers. "Sarah? What's going on?" I asked, my voice laced with worry. She looked up at me, her eyes unfocused. "Marius is here," she said, her voice a dreamy whisper. "Marius? Sarah, who are you talking to?" "There's no one here." She smiled, a serene, almost unnerving smile. "He's always here, David. You just can't see him." That's when I saw it. On the wall behind her, projected by the candlelight, was a shadow. It wasn't Sarah's shadow. It was taller, broader, with distinct features that were unsettling. The shadow seemed to shift and writhe, taking on different forms. I froze. I wanted to scream, to run, but I was paralyzed by fear. "He wants to talk to you," Sarah said, her voice no longer her own. It was deeper, rougher, with a strange accent I couldn't identify. The shadow stretched out, reaching towards me. I finally snapped. "Get away from her," I shouted, lunging forward and grabbing Sarah's arm. She gasped, her eyes widening in confusion. The candles flickered, and the shadow vanished. "David, what's wrong? What are you doing?" she asked, her voice back to normal. I pulled her to her feet, dragging her away from the candles. "Sarah, that shadow, it was talking through you." She stared at me, her face pale. "What shadow? David, you're scaring me." I tried to explain what I'd seen, but she just kept shaking her head, insisting that I was imagining things. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene in my head, trying to find a rational explanation. But there wasn't one. What I'd seen was undeniably paranormal. The next few days were a nightmare. Sarah became increasingly withdrawn, spending more and more time in her studio. The Marius mentions continued, but they were different now, darker. He was telling her things that made her visibly uncomfortable. Marius says you don't appreciate me, David, she told me one morning, her eyes filled with resentment. He says you take me for granted. Sarah, this has to stop. This, Marius, he's not real. He's in your head, he's manipulating you. She glared at me. He's more real than you are, she hissed. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let this, Marius, destroy our marriage, or worse, Sarah herself. I started researching. I scoured the internet, looking for information on imaginary friends, shadow entities, anything that could explain what was happening. I stumbled upon ancient folklore, tales of spirits and demons who preyed on vulnerable minds. The more I read, the more terrified I became. One article mentioned something called banishing rituals, practices used to exorcise unwanted spirits. It seemed like a long shot, but I was desperate. I spent hours studying the rituals, gathering the necessary materials: salt, sage, candles, and a protective symbol, a pentacle. I knew it sounded ridiculous, but I had to try. That night, while Sarah was asleep, I snuck into her studio. The air was thick with that strange smell again. I set up the candles, drew the pentacle on the floor with salt, and lit the sage. I started chanting the words of the ritual, my voice trembling with fear. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen. I felt a presence, something malevolent watching me. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. The candles went out too, plunging the room into darkness. I heard a growl, a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Then, a voice. It was the same voice I'd heard speaking through Sarah, but amplified, filled with rage. You cannot banish me, mortal, it hissed. She belongs to me now. I stood my ground, clutching the pentacle. Leave her alone, I shouted, my voice shaking. She doesn't want you here. The voice laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the room. She wants me more than she wants you. She just doesn't know it yet. I continued chanting, my voice growing stronger. I felt a surge of energy, a power I didn't know I possessed. The air crackled with electricity. Slowly, the darkness began to recede. The growling faded, and the temperature began to rise. The lights flickered back on, and the candles rekindled themselves. I stood there, gasping for breath, my heart pounding in my chest. The studio was silent. The presence was gone. I went back to our bedroom and crawled into bed next to Sarah. She stirred in her sleep, then snuggled closer to me. I held her tight, whispering words of love and protection. The next morning, Sarah woke up refreshed, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She looked at me, her eyes clear and bright. I had the strangest dream last night, she said. I dreamed that there was someone, something, trying to take me away. But you fought it off. You saved me. I smiled, a genuine smile for the first time in weeks. I'll always save you, Sarah, I said. Always. She hugged me tightly. I love you, David, she said. I love you more than anything. The Marius mentions stopped. Sarah started painting again, but her art was different now, more vibrant, more full of life. She seemed to have rediscovered her passion, her joy. We never spoke about the shadow, about Marius. I don't know if she remembers what happened, or if she's just blocked it out. But I know that I'll never forget it. I still don't believe in the supernatural. But I know that there are forces in this world, forces we don't understand, that can prey on our minds and our emotions. And I know that love, genuine, unwavering love, is the most powerful weapon we have against them. It's been a few years since the incident. We moved, and Sarah now sells her art at a local shop. We've made new friends and she is happier than ever. I still catch her humming sometimes to music I don't recognize, but other than that it is like it never happened. We're happy, and that's all that matters.